Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Flash Forward, the show where I talk about everything Flash related, including the main Flash series, as well as spin offs and crossovers and things. Which a spin off is what we're going to be talking about today. It's called Flashpoint from 1999, not the 2011 one. There was a Flashpoint that came out in 1999, written by Pat McGrill with art by Norm Brayfogle. Now, Flashpoint was a 3-issue Elseworlds miniseries that came out in 1999, all about Barry Allen in an alternate timeline where he was the only superhero on the planet. Like, the Flash was the only superhero that existed. And I'm not going to say anything else more than that because it will spoil the story. You know, I'm here to tell you what the story is. Be a little redundant if I said everything right now. But yeah, it's just an alternate timeline about the Flash, and I think it's one of the only Flash Elseworlds stories that they did for the Elseworlds imprint. Yeah, I tried to look up some stuff before this to see like the history behind this comic of like how it came into existence. As far as I know, it was just like Pat McGrill had an idea, and DC was pretty much taking any idea when it came to Elseworlds, and so they let him do it, and they got Norm Brayfogle to do the art for it. Norm Brayfogle is most known for doing like a lot of Batman art in the 80s and 90s. There was actually an interview with Norm Brayfogle, but like it was more of an interview about the art of the book and how he decided to draw certain scenes of Barry using super speed and stuff. There wasn't really anything related to how the story came together. But without further ado, before we get into this, if you're watching on YouTube, then please subscribe and like the video and hit the notification bell so that you can get notifications for when new videos drop. There's a new video every Sunday. So, let's get straight into it. Flashpoint. So, the year is 1999, and in this future, first of all, Flashpoint, essentially it acts as if, like, the Silver Age is the canon, because the Flash in this timeline has existed since 1956. Instead of post-crisis where it was like, oh, Barry Allen was like active around like the 80s, like the early 80s or like the late 70s. So in 1999, Barry is really old, and he's married to Iris. He owns this corporation, like this company that goes to different planets to unearth, like, artifacts. And he works alongside Vandal Savage, who in this universe is a best friend to Barry, and they call him Fan. And Barry is also in a wheelchair, and we'll find out why. Well, it's not really a wheelchair. It's like a futuristic, like, hover chair that he's in. And we'll find out why he's in that. It's weird because 1999 is depicted as being incredibly futuristic. And I guess it's because Barry Allen is supposed to be super smart. So his company was able to just, like, jump civilization ahead of time with all the technology that he was able to create with the help of Iris and Vandal Savage. And I guess Vandal Savage is immortal, so he has so much wealth and so much expertise that he can just help. He was able to help Barry just grow this entire company with futuristic tech and stuff. So it starts off on Mars, where Wally West is a rocket scientist who works for Barry. And he's also alongside James Jesse. If you don't know James Jesse, he's most known as the Trickster. He is also a rocket scientist. He and Wally are on Mars trying to unearth an artifact, which they find. And then when Wally goes to grab it, it calls a bolt of lightning, which hits Wally, knocking him out. So Wally is eventually brought back to Barry's... I guess you could call him like his corporate building or like his base. And it turns out that Wally has been placed into a coma where he just will not stop vibrating. He's vibrating violently, and Iris is afraid that Wally is going to die. And so the plan is that they're going to send Wally to Van to see if Van can figure out a way to help Wally. Iris wants Barry to go with him, but Barry doesn't feel like he doesn't feel up to it. Barry has gotten incredibly depressed as time has gone on. And the reason for that being the fact that he isn't the Flash anymore, and he can't be the Flash anymore, because at some point in time, they don't say a specific year, but he started being the Flash in 1956. He was the only superhero in the world, and he was helping other countries. Like, he was stopping wars and things. Like, he helped stop the Cold War and stuff like that. And then the assassination of John F. Kennedy happened, and Barry heard the gunfire from where he was, somehow. He's got super hearing, I guess. He heard the gunfire, and he ran to where John F. Kennedy was, and instead of John F. Kennedy getting shot, Barry took the bullet. There were 4 bullets. He deflected 3 of them. He took one of them in the spine, and that's why he's handicapped now. And because of that, he can't run anymore, so he's not the Flash, and so he's gotten quite depressed about that, and that's what's stopping him from wanting to go and help Wally, because he believes that he's not good enough to help Wally. At the same time, we learn about Barry's past and how he ended up in this situation. We find Ralph Dibny in this timeline, who is watching the life of Barry Allen. Like, he's basically just watching how watching a movie version of how Barry, or like a documentary about how Barry, got shot in the spine. Also, John F. Kennedy is still alive in this timeline, obviously, because Barry saved him. And he went on to do more things, like he ended up stopping wars, like the USSR crumbled and stuff like that, thanks to him. So Ralph Dibny is watching this documentary, and a mysterious figure comes in and asks Ralph questions about the artifact that was found by Wally. And Ralph is too distracted by the documentary, so he doesn't really give the guy the answers that he's looking for, other than he knows the artifact was found, he knows that it affected Wally in a bad way, and that's all he really knows about it. And then this guy just disappears, and Dibny is just like, oh wow, okay, that's crazy. This guy just disappeared. Wonder where he's gone. Barry eventually decides to go with Iris and Wally to visit Van, and before they leave, he tells James Jesse to make sure to look after the artifact. And he's like, yep, sure, sir, I hope Wally gets better. They go to find Van. They get to Van's, headquarters. It turns out that Leonard Snart in this universe, he's only mentioned very briefly by name, but he works as one of Van's assistants. And so Van takes Wally away to, start doing some tests on him. And he tells Barry that he hopes that Barry can help him with curing Wally. And then he asks Barry about the artifact and, where it is. And Barry is like, oh, we left the artifact back at our base. And it's being looked after by James Jesse. And then we cut back to James, and it turns out that he's stolen the artifact. He's murdered one of the other guys that was left behind at Barry's base. And then he gets into a teleporter with the artifact and teleports away. Presumably to where Van is. Like Van, Barry, and Iris are. But yeah, we're not going to find out exactly where James Jesse has gone until the next issue. So Barry has discovered that James Jesse has stolen the artifact, and so now he is even more depressed than he was previously. And it also turns out that after he escaped with the artifact, he traveled to Van's headquarters and he killed like 3 security guards at Van's place. So Van is kind of upset about that. Ralph Dibny is continuing to do his job as a private investigator. He's currently looking for the whereabouts of the artifact, and he's on the phone with people talking about it, and he sees a mysterious figure. It's really cool. There's a cool panel of like a silhouette of a person flying outside his window, and then you're focused on what Ralph Dibny is saying, but in the background you can see a silhouette looking at him through the window. And then Ralph Dibny sees it, and he's like, oh shit, what the hell is that? And he like jumps over his bed, grabs a gun, waking up his wife Sue Dibny, and he opens up the window and the silhouette is gone. I was like, geez, I must be nuts. He's like, what is it, Ralph? And he's like, nothing, I'm just witting myself out, go to bed, like, go back to sleep, Sue. And in this universe, like, or this timeline, it seems like Ralph is a little bit more tougher than he is in, like, the regular timeline. Like, he's way more of a hard-headed detective than he is. Like, he's a little bit more goofy and stuff in the regular timeline, but in this one he's a little bit more rough and like he beats up people to get answers. John F. Kennedy is still the president, and he's on his 10th term. He's been elected to be president 10 times, which is kind of crazy. And he says the reason why he's been elected to be president so many times is because ever since he was elected president, there's been world peace. There's been no wars. Everything's just been fixed. Ever since he fixed the wars in Korea, it's just been peace. And then he gets a call on the phone while Barry and Van are there talking to him, and it turns out that Wally, who was in a coma, has passed away. Yeah, he died from the artifact, like from the effects of the artifact. So they go to Wally's funeral, and Iris is like, well, at least he's at peace now, like up there. And Barry's like, up where? Heaven? Iris, you know as much as me that the world is a cruel place. Like, there's no heaven. And he just leaves. Because Barry's a man of science, so and he's also really depressed, and so he's become really hateful, like spiteful. So Barry decides that he needs time away. After Wally's death, this has kind of tipped him over the edge, so he needs to isolate himself. So he decides that he's going to go on to the Odysseus, which is it's like a space probe that's currently traveling throughout space, and Barry's going to isolate himself on it and just chill on it, and maybe he'll find something. But it's mostly just so that he has some time to himself. So he goes onto the Odysseus, much to Iris's chagrin, and spends time on there. And while he's on there, he actually he dreams about what his life could have been like. He dreams about adventuring with, like he doesn't know their names, but he dreams about adventuring with Batman, Superman, Green Lantern, Kid Flash, Wonder Woman, Martian Manhunter, all that stuff. And he's like, it feels like a life that I could have had, but it's not the life I have. It's not the life anyone has. Life is short. You live it and then you die, and that's it. Ralph Dibny interrogates Gamby, who is the tailor for supervillains. He knows all about Gamby's criminal stuff, working with supervillains and stuff, and he knows that James Jesse had a past as a criminal, and he knows that he has ties to Gamby, so he questions Gamby about it, and he actually, hits Gamby and, kind of, tortures him a little bit. Eventually gets the information that he wants from Gamby, that James Jesse had ran away. He'd given the artifact to somebody, and he ran away. And, got on a plane to Brazil. So Ralph leaves, and while he's walking through an alleyway, he bumps into the mysterious guy that he saw while he was watching the documentary earlier. And the guy is like, I'm going to ask you again about the artifact and, what you know about it. And Ralph Dibny is like, how can I even, I'm not going to tell you anything. I don't even know who you are. And this figure is like, well, if I show you what I am, then will you tell me? And he pulls off his overcoat and reveals himself to be Martian Manhunter. And using his mind powers, he instills his memories and things into Ralph Dibny so that Ralph knows that he's a Martian and that he's from Mars, and Ralph sees all the horrible things that the artifact could possibly bring, or is going to bring in the future, and he decides to work with Manhunter in order to find James Jesse, and he's like, but all we've got is Jesse's jumpsuit. That's not going to help us at all. And Martian Manhunter is like, well, it's probably got skin follicles on it or something. With my powers, I'll be able to use it to trace it to his whereabouts. So he scans the uniform with his powers, and they go to some local docks, and Manhunter goes under the water, and he pulls James Jesse's dead body out of the water. It turns out that James Jesse handed off the artifact and knew they were going to that somebody was going to come after him and kill him, and it seems like they succeeded. They killed Jesse. Meanwhile, it's revealed that in every single timeline, Vandal Savage is always a villain. Yep. At the beginning of this, we were to believe, Vandal Savage is a nice guy. He's the best friend of Barry Allen. Nope. He was promising Barry that he was going to use the artifacts to figure out a way to get Barry back his powers, but in reality, he just wanted it because he wanted to figure out where Barry Allen's power came from. After Wally's death, Vandal used his DNA to create a bunch of clones of Wally in hopes that these clones would help him get closer to finding out where the speed came from, which we know is the Speed Force. Most of the clones have died because they keep trying to vibrate out of the room, and they end up just smushing themselves into the wall. It's really gross. They vibrate into the wall until they're nothing but blood. Except for one clone. One clone doesn't do that. And Vandal was like, well, terminate the clone anyway, because I'm done with these. I don't need their help in order to find the Speed Force. And then this clone just disappears. And Snyder's just like, hey, did you see that, Van? The clone's gone. Where did he go? And Van's just like, oh no. He's trying to vibrate out of the room, but unlike the other clones, he's succeeding. And so they quickly run to the room to try and stop this clone from leaving, and they see the Wally West clone vibrate out and zoom past a bunch of security guards, smash his way out of Immortality Inc., and Snart just like, this is terrible, I'm sorry, Mr. Savage. He's like, relax, Snart. It's not the end of the world. So Barry and Iris see Wally West on the news. They see that it's a clone. Barry's just like, there's no way it's him. He's dead. And Iris is like, well, we should go and find this person that looks like Wally and try to stop them, because right now he's going on a rampage, because this Wally West doesn't really say, he says words, but he kind of just repeats the same words over and over again. He says, I am the Flash over and over again. He constantly rambles about everyone just leaving him alone. A bunch of police helicopters and police cars come stop him, and the Wally West clone just blows them all away with his speed powers. He just creates arm tornadoes and blows all these police cars away. As he's rambling about being the Flash, when he's like, I'm the Flash, I'm the Flash, I'm the Flash, he runs past the Flash Museum and he sees it, and he runs into it, and he takes a copy of Barry Allen's costume and puts it on. And he's like, I am, as he's running with the Flash costume on. And then he's like, I am you, and he looks at himself in a window, and he's like, you did this, and he smashes the windows, he vibrates the windows until they break, and when he breaks the windows, it reveals that Barry and Iris are behind them, and Iris is just like, Wally, what are you doing? Where did you come from? We thought you were And Wally's just like, no, 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 no. And he like runs off. And Barry's just like, Iris, you scared him away. You drained him of his anger and scared him. I should not have let you. And Iris is just like, damn it, Barry, don't you dare presume to tell me. And that's when Ralph Dibny comes in. He's like, hey, excuse me, enough of the squabbling. I've come to tell you what I know about the stuff that's currently going on. We can talk about the Wally West clone later. Like, we can figure that stuff out. But right now, you need to know that James Jesse did steal the artifact, and he's already handed it over to the people that wanted it. And it turns out that Vandal Savage killed him because Vandal wanted the artifact, and Jesse knew that and tried to get away, and so Vandal hunted him down and killed him. And Barry is just left shocked. He's just like, oh my god, like, Vandal? No way, he's my friend. Like, he wouldn't murder anyone. So Ralph reveals everything to Barry and Iris, specifically Martian Manhunter. He reveals how he met Manhunter, and he reveals to them that Manhunter has gone to find Vandal Savage and take the artifact from him and possibly kill him. So we find that Manhunter does go to Vandal's headquarters, and he meets with Vandal in his office, and Vandal reveals that he has the artifact. Meanwhile, Wally's clone is storming through, like, the suburbs, and he eventually starts to stumble. His speed starts to slow down, and he crashes directly into the home of Linda Park, where he falls onto the ground and starts writhing in pain. And because Linda and Wally are connected, it's assumed, like, it seems they're connected in every single timeline, because she shows instant worry for Wally and tries to help him and calm him down, even though he's a complete stranger to her. She tries to help him, and he's just like, too much energy, like, burning up, I'm on fire. Meanwhile, Ralph Dibny tells Barry and Iris the origins of the artifact that Martian Manhunter showed him. On Mars, science and religion were the same thing, and one of their, like, what would you call it? A priest. It was a priest of the Martians. He created a key to what they came to know as the Speed Force, and he used the key, and the key channeled the Speed Force and caused lightning to rain from the sky, and it destroyed all of Mars' civilization and everyone on it except for one, and that was the priest's acolyte, whose name was John Johns. John got like sucked into a wormhole created by the artifact, where he ended up on Earth and began his journey to try and find the artifact because it got separated from him, and destroy it so that he can put an end to its misery forever. Vandal gives Jean the artifact, and he asks Jean what he wants to use it for, and Jean tells him that he wants to destroy it, and Vandal's like, well, before you do, can we go talk in this little room over here? You know, it's soundproof, I just need to have a bit of a chat. And so Jean walks into this room, he stupidly walks into this room, and Vandal just shuts the door. He may as well have just flipped him off. He shuts the door, and then sets the room on fire, killing John. John just gets roasted alive until he's nothing but a skeleton. It's really horrifying. And then Vandal's like, yes, the artifact is mine, you stupid alien. Wally continues writhing in pain as Linda tries to quell him, and make him feel better. And that's when Barry arrives and is like, it's me, Barry, like, Wally, you're, the reason you're acting like this is because you think you're the Flash, but in reality, you're not the Flash. I am the Flash, and you'll never be the Flash. And as he says this really riles Wally up. It's very clear that one of the themes of this book is it's a bit of a commentary on, like, when Wally became the Flash in the 80s, where it was like, it's kind of commentary by Pat McGrill, I think, kind of pointing at all the people that were like, Wally is not the Flash, like when he became the Flash, and everyone's saying like, where's Barry, like where's Barry, Barry's the Flash, like Wally's not the Flash, and it's kind of a comment on that, some commentary on that whole thing, everything that Mark went through, Mark Waid, when like he did the return of Barry Allen, because so many people were having a go at him because they were like, when's Barry coming back? It was non-stop. That's kind of what this whole story, this plot of the Wally West clone is supposed to be commenting on. So Wally listens to Barry's taunts and he falls for them, and he goes and finds Barry at his at Allen Industries, and he runs into the teleporter that Barry is sitting on, and it teleports them both away into the middle of space. And so Wally tries to escape out into space, and Barry is like, don't do that. Do not vibrate through there. You are going to die. You're going to die again. And Wally's just like, again? And Barry's like, think harder. What do you remember? And Wally's just like, I can't remember anything. A still room, a man in black. And Barry's just like, you're back from the dead, Wally. We buried you and you've been resurrected. He's like, no, it doesn't make any sense. He's like, I agree. Defies the laws of physics, but we've come to the conclusion that, like, you're not the real Wally West. You're a clone of the Wally West that we knew, the one that died. And the artifact, when it struck you, it gave Wally some kind of insane power, and that seems to have been passed on to his clones. And I kind of have an idea on maybe how to help you and how to take away that pain that you're feeling right now. All I need you to do is to come to me. And so Wally approaches Barry, and he grabs Barry, and a huge electrical surge happens between the two of them, and they teleport back to the headquarters, and Wally has collapsed. He's still alive, but the energy that was inside him has been sucked out, and presumably has been absorbed by Barry. So you're probably thinking, oh, or at least I was thinking when I read this, I was like, oh, Barry's got his powers back, doesn't he? That's going to be the big reveal, that he's going to come back. He's going to run. So Vandal has the artifact, and so he's number one enemy on the planet. They're planning to shoot him, to assassinate him, which is really ironic that John F. Kennedy is planning to assassinate Vandal Savage by shooting him in the head. But Barry goes to talk him down, and he's like, please don't shoot him, at least give me a chance to talk to him. And he goes and talks to Vandal, and Vandal is far gone. He's way too far gone. He tells Barry basically what his plan is. He tells him about the key and the power that it has the ability to connect to the Speed Force. This is when he straight up names it as the Speed Force. He's like, this key is connected to the Speed Force. The Speed Force has the power to resurrect everyone. The problem is that if we use this artifact, it will destroy all of civilization. But that's my plan. And Barry's like, what? And Vandal's like, yeah, you heard me. I'm gonna destroy everything because I'm sick of living forever. Can you imagine what it's like living for 10,000 years? It's miserable. And Barry's just like, well, then why can't you just kill yourself? And Vandal's like, because you know me, I'm a showman. I like to have a grand performance, and I want my outing to be as grand as possible. And what's more grand than destroying everyone else alongside me? And also, I'm doing the world a favor. And then Vandal reveals to Barry that on the day that he got shot, Barry wasn't imagining a magic bullet, because back then Barry thought that a bullet came out of nowhere and hit him, but he kind of was just like, oh, there must have just been another bullet that hit me. Vandal reveals that there really was a magic bullet, and that he was the one that created it. He was experimenting back then with technology, and he created a magic bullet, and he did this to Barry. He took Barry's life away from him. And John F. Kennedy hears this. He hears that Vandal is the reason that he's still alive, and so he's incredibly guilty he feels incredible guilt because he's like, I'm alive and it's all because of this madman. Like, if I'd have died, this probably never would have happened. And he orders his men to shoot Vandal, and they shoot him through the head. And as he gets shot through the head, Barry tries to jump out of his chair because it's revealed that he does have his powers back. He jumps out of the chair and attempts to save Vandal, but is too late. The artifact is activated. Vandal activates it just as he dies. And so what is called the Flashpoint is released from the artifact. And the Flashpoint begins to travel throughout the world and destroy everything. And Barry, using his speed, chases after it and jumps into the Flashpoint and absorbs the lightning bolt that's traveling. And then he begins like running across the world connected with this lightning bolt, and he runs so fast that he feels the energy, and he's like, oh, I can feel this energy, it feels good. And then Barry just presumably becomes one with the Speed Force. He travels into the Speed Force and he becomes one with it, and what he sees is everyone that he would have known and if he had never been shot in the spine. He sees Hal Jordan, he sees Martian Manhunter, he sees Superman, Batman, Green Arrow, Wonder Woman, a young Wally West, a young Iris, Jay Garrick, Aquaman. He unites with them within the Speed Force, and Barry completely disappears from reality. And all that's left is Vandal's dead body, having been assassinated. And the world is at peace. Barry is gone, and a memorial is left for him, where Ralph Dibny recollects everything that has transpired since Barry heroically sacrificed himself and disappeared. He says, there was a shot and a flash, and I thought I saw Barry leap from his wheelchair. An instant of bright, blinding light, and then the next second, Vandal Savage was dead on the pavement and Barry Allen was gone. Nobody knows what happened to him. Iris talks of a better place. She's a great lady, and I don't want to bring her down, so I keep my cynical mouth shut. The president made a big deal of awarding a posthumous medal to Barry. This episode took a lot out of him. He looks older and older every day. Wally's memories are coming back, little by little. That gal Linda, what a babe, helps him. She's with him all the time. I think the kids are sweet on each other. And as for me, sure I'll miss Barry. I really didn't know him that well, but I guess he was a good guy, and he probably saved all our butts. I don't have a clue as to where he went, but I do know life goes on. And personally, that's all I want it to do. And that's it. That's the end of Flashpoint. The original Flashpoint. And so by the end of the story, we kind of get this alternate version of post-crisis, where, Barry doesn't die stopping the Anti-Monitor, but he still dies, and, Wally still ends up with Linda, and who knows, maybe there's a possibility that Wanda still has, a residual energy in him, and he still becomes the next Flash, and continues the legacy. The only difference being that he is the only hero on the planet. There is no Batman, there is no Superman. Yeah, that's it. That's Flashpoint. Overall, I think for an Elseworlds story, first of all, this is the only Elseworlds Flash story I've ever read that I've enjoyed. I've read a couple. I read that one about Wally making a movie about Barry, and that one sucked. Which was a reoccurring thing. It's Wally making movies. Always a pretty awful plot line. But this one was good. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was a very interesting alternate timeline. Seeing Vandal Savage be a good guy, and then ultimately it turns out that he's always going to be a villain. There's never a timeline where Vandal is a good guy. He's always going to end up being a bad guy. The only time he's ever not going to be bad is when he's the only person left on the planet. Because at that point, he's just given up. Yeah, and the stuff with Wally was really interesting. The Wally clone, the fact that it's still connected to Linda. I was not expecting that. I was not expecting Linda to show up towards the end of the comic and still kind of be the like Wally's lightning rod. I thought that was a really cool way of tying into the comics and really showing like, Wally and Linda in every timeline really are each other's lightning rod, and they really do help each other get home no matter what timeline they're in. And that, as far as we know, in every timeline, it's pretty common for Barry to end up sacrificing himself to save the planet, and end up becoming one with the Speed Force. And Barry dreaming of all of the people that he would have met was also really cool. I really liked that, how he was having dreams of Martian Manhunter and the Justice League and all that. That was really fun. Um, yeah, I really like the idea of like Elseworlds being, separate timelines, and that the characters' dreams, like the characters in those alternate timelines and those alternate Elseworlds, they dream of Earth Prime. Like, that's really interesting to me, that their dreams would be the real adventures that they dream. Like, in Batman's Elseworlds, like Gotham by Gaslight Batman dreams about, Damian Wayne and like having a son called Damian Wayne, and Nightwing and Tim Drake, and all, like he dreams about all that stuff. It's really interesting. But yeah, if you're interested in Elseworld stories, I highly recommend checking this out. It's a really good one. It's one of the only Flash Elseworld stories. It's really surprising that, like, if you don't count Flashpoint, which I don't count Flashpoint because that's an event. But yeah, it's weird that Flash doesn't have more of these, because it's all about time travel. So like Flash is one of those ones where you can really do a lot of Elseworlds stuff, a lot of fun stuff with the Elseworlds stories. But that's going to be it for this episode. Obviously, it's a bit of a shorter one. Next week, we're going to be talking about Day of Judgment, the event. It's like a Justice League / JSA event. All about the Spectre going insane, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it's like about the Spectre going on a rampage, and like hell is loose. Yeah, so we'll find out what that's all about next week. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Yeah, see you next time.